Good evening, TheoTrade. This is Corey Rosenblum, and you're watching the Theo Nightly Video for the 7th of April here in 2022. And we have markets moving, at least the bond market. We'll start there, as expected, with the Fed raising rates, maybe 50 basis points instead of 25 at their next meeting. We had the Fed minutes, and they are a little more hawkish, more in charge of controlling inflation, which means rates higher, maybe even cut the balance sheet down. That's your Fed balance sheet and all the things they've put on with this most recent round of stimulus. So that's flipping the perspective. But the market's actually up in that session. You'd think it'd be down. But we'll start with the bond market and then discuss where stocks are. So bond prices, I will actually trade in TLT. Continues to make these lower lows and lower highs. That's going to play off in the futures market as well. ZN is the 10-year Treasury note, and that is at 52-week lows. We'll actually take a look later in the video about which stocks are off on the lows as well. Some of them are interesting names, and others we'll see which ones continue to outperform and which stocks are making the highs. But first, the bond market keeps going down, and that's your 30-year bond or 30-year bond. So that is where we are from today's perspective as we're getting started in April here. We also will take a look at what's happening next week in the latter part, which has to do with earnings. We're actually getting into another earnings season, but that'll come a little bit later. BlackRock, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, other financial companies will lead off the pack of stocks that will report earnings. And the general financial sector, speaking of it, was up today, but was very volatile and is up at the moment. Again, the market's not quite closed yet, but about 0.25% to the upside. Strongest sector in today's session was V, which is utilities, or V, which is healthcare, actually healthcare. And we'll see some of the names that led the pack. Back to the bond market. If we see the bond price going down, we're also going to see the TNX, which is the 10-year Treasury note. These are things that Don is bringing to our attention. And as it should be, the yield is rapidly increasing, and that has ramifications across the broader economy, particularly in certain sectors, including technology and the NASDAQ sector as well. Nonetheless, TNX is pushing up. The bond market continues to push those lows. These are opposite. When yields go up, prices go down, and when prices go up, yields go down. 10-year Treasury notes are popping up to new highs. If we want to look at the last time we were at these levels, it was the earlier part of 2019. And this 27, 28, 24, all that just refers to what the yield is on a percent basis. So 30 is actually 3.0, 26, 2.6, of course, 20 is 2.0, and 10, which we were there not long ago at the beginning, or the middle part, early part, I should say, of the pandemic lows. That's when yields were at their lowest, and that was about 0.5%. We are well off of those, and again, this is a very stellar rise in the Treasury market. In the S&P, you're seeing it push up off the middle of the middle. What's the middle of the middle? We have a broad-based distribution, broad-based bell curve, if you will, that has the price overbought or over fair valuation about 4,570 in the S&P futures. Down at the lower bound is about 4,200, 4,150, which makes that midpoint, or as I like to call in the videos here, the middle of the middle. Let's get a little trading range, middle of the middle of the middle. And that's where we had the major reversal in today's session. Actually take a peek at the intraday market to see that how dramatic that reversal was. And that spot, again, is not magic. It is just a very key pivot point for the market. Of course, we'll have to say that under that level could have opened up a very big sell-off. But we're sitting here at the end of the session with the bounce, reversal, and rally in the context of a wide trading range. The same will be true in the NASDAQ, middle of its middle. Higher highs up here, that's the top, that's about 17,000. Lowest low, 13,000. Middle is about 15, or roughly speaking, about 15 or 14.5. Again, middle of the middle. Little trading range here, short-term range, short-term box, and of course the wider box is there. We are again at the middle of a broad distribution. Same is true in the Dow mini futures. I won't discuss those too much, but it continues the sideways trading range. The market is neither downtrending nor uptrending, at least in terms of the last few months. It is really trading sideways in a very big volatile box or range. And the Russell is on the weaker side of that trading range. But let's take that perspective back and see how that played just a little bit later. So on this, we'll take a look at the last couple of years in the Russell. And we do see that, looking at the IWM, as well as a very consolidated trading range. Outside of those, crude, just making a quick note, is playing back to its middle of the middle, and that's about 95 per barrel, down from a way overextended inflation and Russia-Ukraine situation of double boost for the price of crude, and that has come straight back to the mean or the middle. Gold had a similar rally and burst to the upside and then right back down. And one level to note on the big picture, 2050. Lower bound 1650, middle of the middle roughly here. So gold actually traded to the upper side of its consolidation. Let's go into the individual stocks that are making new 52-week highs. These are stocks that continue to outperform the market. Right? Market's in the middle. Market fell strongly from the high. In fact, the Dow, or the NASDAQ, I should say, actually entered a bear market, going 20% down from the high. These stocks are already making fresh recovery highs, and in some cases, all-time highs. The logic continues to be stocks that are strong tend to get stronger. Stocks that are attracting money flow tend to continue to attract money flow. But there's other names that are on the downside, but they are attracting sell-side activity. So let's take a quick look at some of these, which are familiar names. They would include UNH, and we'll pull this back so we can look at the weekly chart on the right and the daily chart on the left. So these stocks are strong, getting stronger. Again, the trade setups, trade techniques, and short-term plays would be bullish from pullbacks. Not necessarily buying it right now, but trying to buy on pullbacks or little retracements in price. And that would include in-out spreads or different types of logic. So UNH is up at the top of the list in terms of market cap. Behind that, Johnson & Johnson, which is not necessarily the strongest uptrend, but uptrend nonetheless. It has broken above resistance and continues to trade to those highs. We see Walmart. Walmart is a retail name which really is in a larger consolidation, but it as well has broken above its resistance. So Walmart shares are certainly in focus, and not to be outdone by a retail name, so is Costco. And Costco is a broad retail or a big box retail, and it continues to push above these highs, gathering additional money flow, additional bullish pressure. And that's been the case really since even going back to 2018 or 19, when this uptrend that I drew here, it accelerated well beyond that. So Costco shares continue to push the highs, and big headline news, they broke above 600 per share in today's session. But then AbbVie Labs, which is similar, which is a weekly chart, that is a very stellar recovery and continued persistent upside action. There's nothing you can do about that in terms of trading, but wait for the pullback, wait for the retracement, and then establish a spread or some type of bullish position on that pullback. That's the thought process. We're looking at strong stocks getting stronger. Eli Lilly, and then a few others. Coca-Cola, we have pinpointed it. Not something I'd be really aggressively interested in being bullish on, but nonetheless, that is at the highs. Bristol Myers Squibb also broke resistance, and other names. I'll put them in the list here so you might be able to pause the video and see or scan on your own chart and thinkorswim stocks that are making new 52-week highs. And a quick note, that's going to be below the scan query, and it should be public. New yearly highs, and these names are leading the pack. I always joke about Hershey. Hershey's a popular chocolate company, but we don't think much about its stock. But nonetheless, Hershey continues to push those highs. A stock that probably isn't on your radar, or on most people's radar, but it's one of those strong getting stronger. Of course, AutoZone, just name a few others. And Hewlett-Packard, HP, or at least HP Incorporated does make those highs. And not to be outdone is O'Reilly. But it's not all bullish. Which stocks are making those lows? We'll take a quick look at these before we end the video. And these are by market cap. These stocks are making 52-week lows. They would include Home Depot, Goldman Sachs, Citigroup, and a few others in the financial sector, Lennar Homes, CarMax, and some others that you, Bath & Body Works, that's a retail name. No, not all retail names are making highs. They're not all Costco and Walmart. Whirlpool, Pulte is a home builder, and the like. So these are some of the stocks in the S&P that are pushing to the lows. And these should be expected to continue to make those lows. Quick looks would see Home Depot. Again, financial company Goldman Sachs trading off to the lows. New 52-week lows and new lows not seen since the earlier part in 2021. Charter Communication off at the lows. We see Citigroup, a financial company, which is also with Goldman Sachs. General Motors, a car company. And we'll look at some others. Lennar Homes, home builders. D.R. Horton. We just talked about Pulte. There is Pulte making the lows. And not to be outdone, Bath & Body Works, a retail name, and Whirlpool, just to name a few. You can see these stocks and see any additional trades or logic or whatever fundamental analysis or continued thought process you may have that will help you set trades up in these weak stocks getting weaker or the strong stocks getting stronger. You can always balance those out in a portfolio. As always, be careful and safe in these environments. This is Corey Rosen with tonight's TheoTrade video update for April 7th, 2022.